For most of human history, money was something you could hold, something you could weigh, and something you could trust. A gold coin in your hand meant real value, value that survived wars, empires, and entire generations. Yet today, the money we all work for, save, and depend on is mostly just paper or digital numbers created with a keystroke. And this raises an unsettling question. If gold has held its value for thousands of years, why did the world abandon it? And why has every single paper currency in history eventually lost its worth and collapsed? This isn't just some dry economic debate. It's a long, quiet conflict that has shaped the rise and fall of civilizations. 500 years ago, the same gold that bought food, land, and power can still do so today. Meanwhile, countless paper currencies that once ruled the world now sit worthless in history books and museums. This stark contrast is not a coincidence. It reveals a deeper truth about money, about trust, and about human behavior. You see, gold doesn't rely on promises or policies. Its value exists by its very nature. Paper money, on the other hand, survives only as long as people believe in the promises backing it. The moment that belief cracks, the entire system begins to fall apart. This video is a journey through that hidden struggle, a 500-year war between gold and paper money. We'll explore how gold became the ultimate foundation of wealth, why governments introduced paper money for convenience, and how that convenience slowly turned into control. You'll see how wars, massive debts, and political power pushed entire nations away from honest money toward printed promises. And you'll see why this exact pattern keeps repeating itself, century after century. By the end of this video, you won't just understand the past, you'll see today's financial world with a brand new clarity, and you'll realize that the war between real money and paper promises is far from over. Gold did not become money by accident. Long before governments, banks, or laws even existed, humans naturally gravitated toward gold as a way to store value. It was rare, it was difficult to extract, it was resistant to decay, and it was impossible to create out of thin air. Unlike food, it didn't rot. Unlike iron, it didn't rust. And, unlike paper, its value didn't depend on anyone's promise. Across countless civilizations, from ancient Rome to the Islamic caliphates, from Mughal India to the European kingdoms, gold was trusted without needing any explanation. A gold coin carried value whether you were rich or poor, a ruler or a farmer. What made gold so powerful wasn't authority, but universal acceptance. People accepted it because everyone else did, and because its supply could not be easily manipulated. Governments didn't create gold's value, they simply followed it. Even powerful kings had to respect its limits. When gold was money, spending required discipline. You could only spend what you actually had. This natural restriction kept currencies honest and restrained reckless government expansion. Gold acted as a silent referee, limiting power and forcing accountability. For centuries, it anchored economies, it anchored trade, and it anchored trust. But that same discipline would eventually become a problem for those who wanted more power, more control, and more spending than gold would ever allow. Paper money didn't begin as a replacement for gold, but as a simple convenience. Carrying large amounts of gold was heavy, risky, and impractical for everyday trade. So, receipts were issued pieces of paper that represented gold, stored safely in a vault. At first, these notes were honest promises. Each paper bill could be redeemed for a fixed amount of gold at any time. Trust was high, and the system worked beautifully. Merchants traded paper with confidence, knowing that real gold backed every single note. But soon, temptation crept into the system. Governments and banks realized something incredibly dangerous. Most people would never redeem their gold all at once. This created a massive opportunity to print more paper than there was gold held in reserve. It started quietly at first, then became more and more aggressive. As long as public trust remained high, the illusion held. Paper money allowed rulers to spend without immediate pain. They could fund wars without raising taxes, and they could grow their power without any restraint. Convenience slowly turned into control. What began as a practical solution became a powerful tool of manipulation. The link between paper and gold weakened, while the number of promises multiplied. History shows that this very moment, when paper stops being fully backed by real assets, is where the trouble always begins. The first major warnings came centuries ago, but humanity failed to listen. Think of Spain, flooded with silver and gold from the New World. They flooded Europe with money, and what happened? Prices exploded, purchasing power collapsed, and the empire itself weakened. France attempted massive paper money experiments, promising prosperity through the printing press. Instead, they got hyperinflation that destroyed savings, chaos in the streets, and a complete loss of trust. Over and over again, the same pattern appeared. Governments printed money to solve their short-term problems, only to create long-term disasters. Wars accelerated this cycle. Conflict required enormous funding, and gold limited how much could be spent. Paper money removed that limit. And each time, rulers believed they could manage the system better than their predecessors. And each time, they were wrong. Inflation didn't arrive suddenly like a thunderstorm, crept in quietly, eroding value year by year until the final collapse became unavoidable. Ordinary people always paid the price, while those closest to power and the money printer escaped first. These were not isolated accidents, okay? They were repeated warnings written across the pages of history. And yet, instead of abandoning paper money, societies doubled down on it, convinced that this time it would be different. The creation of central banks marked a major turning point in the war between gold and paper money. Central banks promised stability, expertise, and control over economic cycles, but under the gold standard, their power was limited. The money supply could only grow as fast as a nation's gold reserves. This constraint frustrated governments, especially during wars and crises when they wanted to spend without limit. The 20th century changed everything. Global conflicts demanded unlimited spending, and gold stood firmly in the way. Slowly but surely, nations began to suspend gold convertibility during emergencies. Eventually, those temporary measures became permanent. In 1971, the final link between the world's major currencies and gold was officially severed. From that moment on, money was no longer tied to anything physical. It became a system based purely on confidence, government policy, and ever-growing debt. Central banks gained an extraordinary power, the ability to create money instantly out of thin air. Supporters called it progress and flexibility. Critics called it incredibly dangerous. Without the anchor of gold, discipline vanished. Government debt exploded, massive financial bubbles formed, and our entire system became much more fragile. The referee had officially left the game. The war was no longer hidden. Paper money had won the battlefield. But it came at a cost that history had warned us about repeatedly. Today's money exists mostly as digital numbers on screens, efficient and unstoppable. But beneath all the technology lies the same old problem. Modern paper money is designed to lose value over time. Inflation quietly reduces your purchasing power, acting as a hidden tax on your savings and your wages. It's why people feel like they're working harder and earning more, yet somehow getting poorer. Meanwhile, gold continues to do what it has always done, preserve value across generations. This doesn't mean paper money is useless. It enables trade, growth, and flexibility in our modern economy. The danger lies in excess. When money can be created without limits, discipline disappears. History shows us that no fiat currency, a currency backed by nothing but a government promise, has survived forever. Not because people are foolish, but because systems based purely on trust eventually break. The story of gold versus paper money is not about choosing sides. It's about understanding the fundamental patterns of history. Gold represents restraint and discipline. Paper represents freedom, but freedom that comes with incredible risk. The 500-year war continues today, not with swords or armies, but with policy decisions made in quiet boardrooms that affect every single one of our lives. The question is no longer about who wins. The real question is, who pays the price when history inevitably repeats itself once again? Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey through history as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the forces that shape our world. See you in the next one.